We grew up watching TV that would absolutely get canceled today. And you know what? I think we're better for it.
You think the Jeffersons could air now? Hell, they'd burn the network down before we even got to episode 2.
This is Tav. She survived Gilligan's Island, The Gong Show, and Maude without becoming a menace to society.
That depends on who you ask, I guess. Well, this is Jim, raised on All in the Family, unapologetically opinionated, and still quoting Hawkeye Pierce on occasion.
And together, we're Unretired AF.
Hello and welcome to today's show, where we're going to be talking about how we grew up on offensive TV and we turned out okay. But before we get started, we want to say thank you and a shout out to all of our subscribers. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your support.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if you like our content and you would like to see it in your feed every day, Monday through Friday, please hit that subscribe button. We would love for you to join the Unretired AF revolution. So, getting on to today's show, the shows that shaped us when we were kids. I mean, Jim and I are products of the 60s and 70s when we were children, and then the 80s when we were young adults.
Right.
And so most of the shows we're going to go over right now, I think are more from 60s and 70s, would you say?
I would say,
probably
yeah.
Mostly from the 70s. Mostly from the 70s. So, I mean, Gilligan's Island, which, think about it, Gilligan's Island and even like Beverly Hillbillies, those were prime time shows.
Yeah.
They were not children's shows. Now,
No.
when we were growing up, they were both, I think, in syndication by that time and showing during the day. And, so you had Gilligan's Island, which was sort of traditional gender roles and...
so there are economic roles too. You had the Howells, who were very, very rich.
Right.
And everybody else.
And everybody else, that's exactly right. And then, of course, The Gong Show.
Oh.
I mean,
Gigi and the Dancing Machine. That was
and what was the guy's
awesome.
name? Chuck Barris.
Chuck Barris.
And didn't he like dance too?
Yes, he
and
would.
And he was like a little guy, wasn't he?
He was.
Wasn't there like a rumor he was like some kind of an intelligence CIA guy or something?
Know. That was a crazy show, though.
That was funny. It was crazy and show. Funny. And then there was Maude, and Maude was like. Really came out at a time with feminism, a lot of feminism and a lot of feminism views. Then we go back to some of the older ones like Bewitched,
right,
and I Dream of Jeannie, where really they were kind of contemplating ethics.
Yeah.
And and everybody was mad at Darren, and everybody was mad at the astronaut. What was his name?
Major Healy.
Major Healy, that's right. And they were mad at him. It's like, why wouldn't you want them to use their magic?
Right.
It's like, that's just so dumb.
Yeah.
But anyway, you had those two shows. And then, of course, Star Trek, which was the first show that had a interracial kiss. And that was when somebody was like controlling Captain Kirk and Officer Uhura and made them kiss. And so that was really controversial on TV at that time.
And I mean, could you imagine now the Jeffersons being on?
Oh, no.
Or All in the Family?
No.
I mean, Archie going after Meathead the way he did.
Right.
I mean,
but it was so good.
It was good. It was
so good. Even if you cringed and knew it was, it was something that people talked about at school the next day.
Right. Another good one too was Good Times, showing that a family in the projects and how they got by on it.
Well, and that was important. That was really important. We didn't have exposure to that, most of us.
No. The big one that really hung with me was MASH.
Oh, right.
And there were so many, with my dad being in the military, I mean, it was like a glimpse into the military and war.
Right.
And my dad fought in Korea, and this happened in Korea, so it was very good. It was a comedy, but serious, and
right. Very different from like Hogan's Heroes and other types of war shows. It was very honest.
Yeah. So then you move to something a little quicker than that. Was the Dukes of Hazzard with the
Boss Hogg.
Boss Hogg and Remember the orange? What was that? An orange Charger?
It was a General.
The General Lee.
General Lee. That's right. It didn't.
But I think it was a Charger.
I thought it was either a Charger or a Challenger.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one.
But it had a friggin' Confederate flag on the hood.
And
on
Daisy
the
Duke
roof.
in her shorts. I mean,
So it had racing and sex and the whole thing.
Right.
And then one of my favorites, and who can say more about Red Fox, was Sanford Son.
Right.
And it was crude, but it was funny at the same time.
Right.
And they really pulled it off. I think
it was very, very good. And those shows tackled stuff like the racial issues.
Yeah.
They didn't back down from it.
No.
They said stuff that would never be said today.
Never.
And they tackled, like you said with MASH, they tackled war.
Yeah.
They tackled poverty.
Yeah.
Like with Good Times. I mean, that was, and even Sanford Son wasn't exactly like that. And I remember Chico and the Man too. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Same kind of principle. Gender issues. There were a lot of gender issues. Like I remember, this is before our time, but remember with I Love Lucy when Lucille Ball got pregnant? They had that she was the first pregnant person on TV.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because back then, all of them, Mary Tyler Moore too.
Right.
Remember that? They all had separate beds.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know how they thought that the audience thought anybody ever had any children, but but there was gender, there was death. I mean, MASH dealt with death,
right?
Bigotry.
Big
I mean, All in the Family. With because All in the Family, Archie Bunker wasn't the only bigot.
No,
George Jefferson started out on All in the Family, and he was a bigot too.
Yeah.
So
you name it, it happened then.
And they talked about it.
It just happened then, and they talked about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't avoid any of it.
No.
At all.
No.
And for us as an audience, it was just the truth and a bunch of laughs.
I mean, it was funny, and it wasn't like we all of a sudden became racist because we watched Archie Bunker. If anything, it was just a mirror on society.
Right.
And it was to the extreme.
Yeah.
It was to the extreme because that's what made people laugh about it. And they realized it was ridiculous. And no one was becoming racist because of watching All in the Family.
No.
I mean, if anything, I think people might have said, it might have made families think, especially if people were slightly racist.
Yeah.
I think it would maybe convict them a little bit in their heart about how they were being, because he was just so out there.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway.
Yeah, good point.
So what would get canceled today from back then? All of it. I mean, honestly. But why? Why would it be? So we could talk about Archie. I mean, his views on his liberal son-in-law, meathead. I mean, that would have not gone over good. His views on women, always telling Edith to stifle it, Edith.
Right.
Remember, he would tell her, stifle it.
Right.
His views on women, his views on minorities.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was like really hateful person. That was what made Archie sort of an endearing character. He wasn't a hateful person, but he did have biases that were really clear, that he had no filter.
Well, I think he was straight across the board. He didn't like anybody.
Right, including his own family.
Including his own family.
So All in the Family would have automatically been canceled.
The Jeffersons with George Jefferson, if you remember, what was one of his famous words? Honkies.
Honky.
Talking about honkies.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That wouldn't go over too well right now.
No.
Not going to happen.
No. And then, you look at the show Maude. I think Maude was the first show, because it was sort of a feminist show.
Yeah.
It was the first show that openly talked about abortion.
Right.
On that show. And that was pretty out there, even though it's so funny because you have so many people now who are so like, my body, my choice, but they're not talking about it.
Right.
It's not being talked about on shows like it was back then.
Yeah. And then, you look at MASH.
Right.
Corporal Klinger.
Oh, right.
I mean, Klinger dressed in drag, not because he wanted to be. He was trying to get a Section 8 so he could go home.
Right.
So
right.
I don't think that would, the play stuff like that would not work these days.
Right. I mean, they wouldn't have a problem with him being in drag
No.
on the show, but the fact that he was pretending to be crazy
Right.
so he could get out,
Right.
They wouldn't like that. That would definitely get canceled. And then pretty much every single thing Fred Sanford said would get canceled.
Yeah.
I can't remember any of his lines. Can you? I just
can't.
can't. I can't remember any of them.
I can't.
Well, and why that honesty mattered. That's a big deal. I mean, the most important reason that honesty mattered from those shows, the shows that we grew up on, is because you heard views that you didn't agree with.
Right.
Nobody was trying to protect you or find a safe space for you.
Yeah.
If you heard something you didn't like, you just had to deal with it.
Yeah.
You had to deal with it. You had to reconcile it. But nobody was coddling you and trying to prevent you from hearing things you didn't agree with. That's something that I really dislike about society now.
Yeah. And, we all knew that the characters were flawed.
Right.
But they were all real.
Right.
And we could relate to all of it.
Well,
because
exactly.
we had seen it and heard it in real life.
Exactly. Nobody thought that any of the people that did bad things, that they were to be admired.
No.
I mean, we all were smart. I mean, we figured it out. And, and it was just a way to spur discussions around the dinner table at night and at school the next day, or if you were a young adult at work the next day. I mean, it was just a conversation starter, which was really, really, even going back a little bit further. Remember the Mary Tyler Moore show?
Yeah.
I mean, she was like the first woman living on her own.
Yeah.
That was really unusual back then.
Yeah.
I mean, women at that time normally stayed living with their parents until they got married. She was like the first one. She was not the first one, but the first one on TV.
Yeah.
Where it portrayed her, and then she had her friend Rhoda, and you had all these.
Yeah.
It was like really interesting, and it did spur conversations around.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess the takeaway from this episode is that cancel culture isn't honest.
No.
I mean, that's really the bottom line. It's not portraying life as it really is, because it's unrealistic to think you're going to only hang around people who agree with every single thing that you believe.
Right.
That's unrealistic. And not only is it unrealistic, it's unhealthy.
Right.
I mean, we all need to be challenged.
We need to be challenged, and we all need to laugh.
Right.
I mean, if you can't laugh at this kind of stuff where it doesn't affect you, it doesn't do anything to you, it's just for enjoyment. Right. If you can't laugh, then what do you got?
Well, if you can't laugh at yourself, if you can't laugh at our culture, everybody's taking stuff so serious, and it doesn't seem like it's doing very, very much good for people's mental health either.
No.
I mean, we used to be able to laugh about everything, and I know that there's been a lot of comedians, Dave Chappelle particular, who's been hitting on that fact that comedy has been, what does he say, defanged or something like that? That it's there's a lot of comedians who are really scared. There's a lot
that have been canceled.
A lot have been canceled, and I think that the only way that somebody should be canceled is if people stop buying tickets.
Right.
That's
right.
If somebody's saying things that people don't find funny,
right,
then they don't buy a ticket, and then it's like the free market.
But that's on them.
Exactly. It's on the free market, though.
On the free market.
It's not just society saying, a certain segment is offended with you, so therefore you don't have a right to say. That's about the most un-American thing that you can
exactly.
say.
So if you have any comments on this, if you had a favorite show when you were growing up,
or a favorite moment,
or a favorite moment, share it with us in our comments section.
Yes.
There's a lot more shows we didn't even mention.
Oh yeah.
That may have been one of your favorites, and just let us know. And
Three's Company. We didn't even mention Three's Company.
Three's Company, right? I forgot about that.
That one had a lot of things that wouldn't be allowed today.
Yeah, no, that's
so
very
like
good.
Jim just said. There's so many shows that we couldn't mention them all. So tell us your favorite moment that you feel like would be canceled today. We'd love to see it. Well, that's a little later. That was way later. But anyway, yes, and And if you've enjoyed today's show and you'd like to see it in our show in your feed every day, please hit that subscribe button and please like our show too. Well, we're not slowing down.
And neither should you.
And together, we're Unretired AF.